Welcome to our panel discussion. Our theme is facilitating global trade and transport.
Today, if I take a ton of material from Amsterdam to Paris, it costs me more money than to take it from Amsterdam to Shanghai. That's the reality. And so these type of flows are, with the world becoming so small with the bigger ships, means that you have to take these barriers away, or countries are sliding behind. The only way is that we confront these competitive environments, that we break down those barriers, and that we go through the painful exercise of forcing our economies to become competitive.
We had 5 governments within a period of 4 years in our country, and for all means of transport, that means actually a step back. What is the important task now is to rebuild the country.
I think competitiveness and supply chain efficiencies are absolutely vital today, no matter whether you're in Canada or whether you're trying to solve the problems of Tunisia. And in some way, that's also the consensus view of economists. For once, they all agree that if you really want to have an impact on poverty, trade is the deal breaker, if you will. And today, very briefly, I mean, trade costs for developing countries are 2 to 3 times higher on average than those faced by developed economies. That gives you sort of a sense of what the challenges are. And what is particularly a source of concern is the unreliability and the unpredictability of supply chains.
The Government of Canada's perspective is that fundamentally long-term prosperity of Canada is dependent on trade. It's its openness to trade, and that's critically related to the ability of our transportation system to move the goods in an efficient and cost-effective way. But that being said, I think its key message is this is your ability to succeed critically depend on the full integration and the change from the regulatory framework, from the infrastructure, and the effectiveness and efficiency of the logistics. All the elements have to work together in an aligned fashion. I'll give you an example in terms of obviously, there's increased metal demand into iron or other base metal demands in Asia. People naturally think that product will move from east to west to the west coast and then exported to Asia. But it's not necessarily how the world will actually work, because there could be a mine, for example, in this case, that in South Africa, that's actually supplying Rotterdam currently, and there's increased demand in Asia. What happens in the transportation network is that the mine in South Africa will now supply Asia, and we end up supplying, Canada end up supplying Rotterdam. So it's actually going on the East Coast. We know the source of the demand, but we don't know, it's not obvious without really a significant investment in, in understanding the flows, how that demand is going to be served, and then what are the consequences on the infrastructure needs. And I think that's certainly the message for us is we need to intensify our partnership with the private sector to be in a better position and to understand and anticipate where the growth that everybody sees coming from Asia will translate in demand on our infrastructure, on our transportation sector, and then the impacts on the needs for infrastructure.
I would ask you to show your appreciation for the panel. Thank you very much indeed.